Good morning, folks. I'm here at the O'Brien Guitars Workshop with Peter T. We're going to build a classical guitar this week. There's several steps involved with the neck. And the first thing that people make a mistake of doing is they grab this thing and they look at it and they think, well, it's not quite straight and stuff. Let me start milling it. Then you got problems. So let's go ahead and get our rulers out, our pencils, and let's make some sawdust. Now, how big an angle do you want? Or does it matter? It depends on the tuners. For example, if you have the post tuners that come in from the back of the peg head, you want a little steeper angle, 15 degrees, because you want that string to come over and be able to be pulled down. On a classical guitar, the strings are already being pulled down into the slots. Right. Tuners are coming in from the side. So you can go a little less. Romanillos, when I studied with him in Spain, he goes all the way down to about 8 degrees. Wow. That's not very steep. Now, he's doing the V joint and all that kind of stuff, so he can't be quite as steep. The idea is to get this flat so that we have a nice glue joint. Right. This just happens to be a number 4 smoother, but a block plane would work, a jack plane would work, you know, whatever you want to use. When you do this, though, you need to plant on your surface this part, and then go. Plant, go, plant, go. Because if you're doing this as you're going in here, you're rounding this off, yes, and you wind up altering your angle. And I'm thinking that 12.45 degrees is the secret to the good guitar. So we don't want to alter that. Also, when you do this, notice how I'm turning my plane sideways. Right. All right, how much glue do we need?
Less is more.
Less is more. He has watched the video, folks. I'm very impressed with that. Now, since this is the first glue up of the day, I give the students a choice. Either they can say a few words or have a moment of silence or whatever you want to do there, or we can just jump right in. It's up to you.
I am ready to use my high-tech glue spreading device.
Here we go. All right. As we're waiting for the neck to dry, I like to keep right on working. Time is money. Mm-hmm. The secret to building a guitar in 6 days is working efficiently. So when something's drying, we're working on something else. And we're going to work on thicknessing and bending the sides. Now, here in my classes, I work on the teaching principles of hear one, see one, do one. You ever heard that philosophy?
No.
Okay, the medical field uses it, the military uses it, Boy Scouts use it. So basically, you're hearing about it, which we're doing now. Then you're going to see it. I'm going to pitch. You're going to be on the receiving end, so you're going to catch. And then you're going to do it. Okay. And that's where the learning starts, when you actually get your hands wet and get in there and start doing it. Okay. So hear one, see one, do one. You're going to hear that philosophy all week, and hopefully you'll pick up a trick or two. If you have dust on there and you get on top of it, well, you're going to get thin in that area. Right. Technical term for that is bad. You don't want to do that. Right. Okay, we just finished our sides. Now, we're going to build a guitar in 6 days. Is there anything else that we have to thickness this week?
Top and the back.
Top and the back. Now, the top I don't do in the safety planer. It's a softer wood. I either do it by hand or put it through my sander. But the back goes through here. Now, before I learned that concept of working efficiently, I would clean everything up, I'd break down the tool, I'd put it away, and then a few hours later, I'd pull everything back out. Well, if we do it now, it saves us a bunch of time. 10 or 15 minutes over the course of a week is a half day. So we can save ourselves probably a half day of work just by working efficiently like this. Just push it and pull it out, we'll put it in the calipers. If we like the setup, we'll go ahead and, as James Brown says, take it to the bridge. Now, I get asked all the time about, okay, if you're working alone, how do you do this? Because this is kind of a two-person job, right? Yeah. And it's actually very easy to do it by yourself. If you want, I can demonstrate for you. How you do it by yourself? Okay, it's pretty tricky. You got to really pay attention. If not, you're going to miss it. You ready? Now, to store this, I used to just store this in the corner. And it would all the time get kicked over. I'd stumble over it and all that kind of stuff's always in the way. So I put hooks across my ceiling. Now I just put the hose up there and that holds it up out of where we need it. Then when you need it, just pull it off the ceiling. Now I'm a tall guy, so that works pretty good for me. The hose goes all the way across the ceiling like that, and then down into the main line over there. You're going to see me put them through there diagonally. Why am I putting it through diagonally? Well, actually, I'm doing it to even out the wear and tear on the belt, so I don't just waste one part. Also, I'm putting diagonal sanding marks in here. So when it comes time to do our finish sanding, I can see those things. If they're with the grain, you think you got them all out, but sometimes you don't. All right, next thing we have to do is bend that sucker. You feeling lucky? Now, what I normally do on my regular classical guitars is I come in and I pre-taper. So normally when I bend sides, I lightly spritz them. Now you can bend dry. And I did it for a number of years on that pipe with charcoal. At the same time, can you think of anything else we need to bend this week?
The bindings.
The bindings. And so that's back to that idea of working efficiently. If we take our bindings and put them in there as well, then we can break everything at once. No, hopefully that won't happen. All right, we just had some exciting moments over there. Pucker factor was high as we were bending our cutaway. While that's getting its attitude adjusted through the heat and cooling cycle, let's come back and work on the neck. One of the things I figured out about how to build a guitar in 6 days is to work efficiently. So the first 2-3 days we're jumping around kind of all over the place, taking advantage of our downtime. This now becomes block number 1, block number 2, block number 3. And when you cut this into 3 blocks, it's going to be stacked up here like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay? That way, when you look down the end of it, or if you look at the heel, all the grain matches. Okay? So we can go ahead and cut this into 3 blocks and glue it on there, right? That's a trick question. You know that's a trick question.
Yeah.
The reason why we can't do that is because we don't know if this surface is flat. And if this surface is not flat, it has a bow or a cup in it, when you go to glue it on here, you got exposed glue lines. And it's going to look really bad in your heel. And my guess is that this thing is probably not flat. And if you cut it into 3 pieces, you just tripled your problem. And you should see no daylight in there now because you did such an excellent job.
Beginner's luck. Still.
I think we're good enough to glue it though?
Yes.
Okay. Now folks, Daryl made that look easy. Sometimes you just got to walk away. I've been known to even chase that, gap up and down there, and finally you just walk back over to the joiner and just join it all up again, start completely over.
I give up.
But Daryl made that look good, so congratulations. Let's get out the plate joining jigs. Let's glue these things together because this afternoon we want to put rosette in the top and we want to join and brace that back. So start on the left-hand side with the rope, your other left. There you go. Got that on tape, by the way.
My military left.
So start on the left-hand side. Bring it over here to the right-hand side. You don't have to pull it very tight. Just keep it snug. Go underneath, and now we're going to just do a figure 8. We're going to come over here on the right-hand side. There you go. Come back over here. And on this end, just zigzag it through those little hold things there. And I'm happy to announce that we still have the cap to the glue bottle. Usually that's gone by about 9 o'clock on Monday morning, but we still got ours. Look at that. All right, top and back have been joined. Congratulations. It's time to go back over there and bend another side.
Let's go.
Let's do it. All right, so what I do is I come in and I just do what's known as a bird's beak in carpenter's terms.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do one of these, the more you trace it, the wider it gets. See that? So just a quick point right there tells me exactly where it is. Now on a classical guitar, it's extremely important when you glue this up that this doesn't skate up or the sides don't skate up. They have to be flat on the bench. The top of a classical guitar is flat. It doesn't give it a radius. So if it misaligns during the glue up, you've got serious problems when you go to put your top on there. And because we waxed our block, squeeze out should come right out of there, right? Yeah. At least that's what I've always heard. Welcome back to the afternoon of day 1. Peter is still smiling. His tongue's not hanging out of his mouth. Just gave him a nice lunch and a big cup of Brazilian coffee, so we're ready to go again, right?
Coffee help.
You don't have wiggle room this way off your center line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also notice how I've rounded the back side of the template.
Yes,
So that way you can get it up there where you need to. I'm going to put some double stick tape on it. I'm running my drill press at about 2,800 RPM, which is about the same we were running the safety planer. You got to keep it moving because if you stop, it's going to create a flat spot or an indentation in my template. Start in over here, run down the edge like that. Whoa, look at that. Well, there's not a lot left over there, is there?
No.
Right across the top of it there. Make sure you keep it moving, right? Be careful when you exit over here, you don't blow out a big chunk right there because that's so close to our final width that if it blows out a big chunk, you won't be able to fix it, right? Can't sand it out of there. Now, once you get through your rosewood into your maple, then you want to try and keep those lines straight. And there lies the problem. Keeping those lines straight. See, I'm starting to get him crooked there. So what I'm going to do is come take a little bit off of this side. Straighten him up. See that? Now, I think that would pass the 6-foot rule. What do you think?
Yep.
You know what 6-foot rule is?
See it from 6 feet?
6 feet away looks great.
Yep.
We use that rule a lot in guitar building. I'm going to bring this back just a little bit more here at the top. What we're going to do now is slot into that heel for our Spanish heel, for our sides to grab the neck. And that's why we've established that perimeter there. Now, to cut the slots here, I use a table saw. What you're going to do now is just come in with a chisel. That part needs to go away, so just come in with a little mallet and a chisel. See that? And then this, just lay your chisel flat on there and come in there like that and roll it around like that. See how that just comes right off? There you go. Make sure we get it down here, but don't take any more, right? We also need to establish a neck angle, because there is a neck angle on a guitar, on a classical guitar. If you're in the playing position, if you push the neck away from the player about 2.5 millimeters, that's the neck angle we want. And so we need to establish that. Now, because time is money and I like to just keep right on working, what I do is I take a couple of blocks here, put them on my bench, just flip this thing over like so. Look at that. Now we can keep right on working on this side. So let's get us another one ready to go. Here's the one that's going to go in here. One of the secrets to building a guitar in 6 days is having dedicated tools. This tool is dedicated for classical guitar rosette installation, and it's already set to the correct depth. So I don't have to hunt around for the tool, find the bit, set it up, make a test cut, check it. I know that it's already ready to go. You will save an incredible amount of time just by having that. All right, so we just sanded this over there at the sander. You notice I was putting it through it at an angle. Why am I putting it through it at an angle?
To save the
belts, even out the wear and tear on the belt. Also, I want to be able to see those marks. If you go with the grain, sometimes it's hard to see them. So if you hold it up to the light like this, you can see some really deep scratches going across there. All right, so I've got a shooting board here that's right and left-handed. The reason why it's right and left-handed is because I can see my lines here. And then when I turn it over to be running downhill, I can't see my lines anymore. So I just work left-handed. What I do is I can now get my hand in that sound hole and come in here like this and flex it. Just very lightly. Be careful you don't crack your center seam. Get your thumbs in there and just give it a light flex. Right on the seam and just a little bit off the seam. It's probably not going to mean anything to you right now, but over time you'll start to develop this working library of what stiffness and looseness is. Now, I always use in my class the analogy of a drum head. So let's say you have a drum head and you want more treble. What do you do to the skin on that drum head? That's not a trick question.
well, you increase the tension.
You increase the tension. So you increase the tension, the skin gets tighter, the pitch goes up. If you want a lower pitch, what do you do to the skin?
The opposite.
You loosen it, obviously. So it's not rocket science, folks. Now, the problem with the classical guitar is that we got screaming basses. We get no treble. So what do we have to do based on that analogy to get more treble? Well, we've got to introduce some type of tension into that. If you introduce too much tension into it, then you don't have enough energy in the strings to drive the top. So it's a delicate balancing act. Now remember, after we graduated it and flexed it, it was a lot looser. Now it's a lot stiffer. That's too stiff. We got to do something. So now we're going to transition into that third step of controlling stiffness and looseness, and that is removing material. Our first three braces here, the one under the bridge and the one on either side of the bridge, are the ones we're going to start working on. I think you said you came in here with no woodworking experience, didn't you? Or very little.
I watch these incredible videos online.
Well, folks, let's give Daryl an A for the day, because he had absolutely no woodworking experience at all when he came in here. And he's doing a fine job.
Ingratiation 101.
So the next thing we're going to do on the back braces before we glue them on is pre-scallop those edges. This is back to that idea of shoot and pull. We could very easily do it afterwards. But if we do it now, it saves us a lot of time. Here in the class, we're going to close the box at the same time, top and back. Saves us about an hour and a half's worth of time. Don't get sloppy with the glue because you can't get in and clean it out, right?
It'll get exciting, I'm sure.
That's right. So let's start by fitting the top. And to fit the top, we're going to need to bring the rims over here. So a classical guitar, we've been talking about this for a while, the neck pitches away from the guitar player at the peg head by about 2 or 3 millimeters. And the traditional soletta method has that angle built into the soletta. I've found a much easier way of doing that. What I do is I've taken a shim. This is just a piece of hardboard. I've put it into my dished out workboard. Before I did that, I thicknessed it in my sander to 2 millimeters. So I just placed my guitar on there. And so what you're doing is you're elevating your body 2 millimeters. Now down there at the neck end, your body's up in the air, or your neck's up in the air 2 millimeters. clamp it down. Guess what? There's your neck angle. Folks, we have successfully arrived at the binding channel stage. You feeling lucky? My pucker factor still goes up pretty high when it comes time to do binding channels. Okay, so here's the LMI binding cutting jig. This is where this jig really shines. It's the only one on the market that has this. If you want to raise or lower the depth of cut, all the other jigs out there, you got a fiddle fart, and yes, that is a technical term. You've got a fiddle fart with the mechanism on the router, and none of them are precise, and it's a pain in the behind. LMI has this little donut here that spins. And so if you want a shallower cut, you open up the threads on the donut and it exposes less of the bit. You want a deeper cut, you roll it up onto the threads and it exposes more of the bit. Now you'll notice I have a little green piece of tape right there with an arrow on it. That's the secret. I'm going to show you that trick here in a minute. Okay, what I normally do in the class here is I bind this side of the top and the student runs the tape for me. By then, you're an expert. Back to the hear one, see one, do one philosophy. Yep. Then I get out of the way, you get in the driver's seat, and you do this side while I run the tape. By then, you're really an expert. So I just let you go ahead and continue on to the back, and you do both sides of the back. And these bindings fit really nice. Folks, the secret to a good binding job is don't even get out your glue bottle until everything fits. Right. All right, so here's the secret. Tape the side. Push down. One hand is doing all the work. See that finger? He's turning white or red or whatever. He's doing all the work. Hi, I'm doing nothing over here. See this? Pull it up into position, and this guy then reaches over, comes in, swoops in, saves the day. He pulls on that tape and pulls it into position. Now, down here, I stopped my tape, or my glue right about where that tape is. That's because we have to do some hand work. So here we go. This is where the excitement starts. Come in and mark your center line. I also like to mark the direction I want that to go. And the reason why I go that way is because the next one I can just tuck him under there and he holds himself in. If you go this way, this guy coming here is not going to hold himself in. Welcome back, folks, to, what is this, day 3?
Day 3.
Plan of attack today. By the end of the day, guitar's built. Fretboard's on, fretwork's done, everything's sanded up to 320, got a bridge masked off, starter French polish, and we're going to go ahead and do a Z-epoxy pour fill back inside. So we got a lot of work ahead of us today. Here we go. You ever carved a neck?
No.
Okay, let's not be fun.
That I would admit to.
This is going to be fun. A neck is like a carving a neck is like a journey. If you think about how far you got to walk, you're never going to get started. If you just start taking some steps and smelling the roses along the way, pretty soon you're at your destination. That sounded nice, didn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful. Even smells good.
Anyway, so there are several steps involved with carving the neck. Step 1 is this area. Step 2 is the sides and the transition into the peg head. And step 3 is thickness and roundness. Each step has a few steps. So I use in my class the analogy of a house. A house, when you build a house, if the foundation is square and plumb, as you build up, the roof fits. If the foundation is not square and plumb, as you build up, you're compounding your problem, and then nothing fits. So we're getting ready to transition into our fretwork. This is our foundation. If this is not square and plumb, to use the analogy, in other words, if the fretboard is not flat, tapered, leveled, or radiused, if you're doing a radius, fret slots the correct depth, the correct width, if all of that is not done properly, then as you build up, in other words, as the fret goes in, you're creating work for yourself when it comes to fretwork. All right, I think I stated at the beginning of the week, this is a guitar building class, not a sanding class. However, we're going to need to do some sanding, and a lot of it. You don't have to like it, but you got to know how to do it. I like to use these little erasers. These little school erasers have like a chiseled edge on one end, and you can come in and wrap your sandpaper around it right up on the edge, and then get right up in here like that. And it's almost a very light touch. You don't need to press hard. I only do the hard pressing when we get all done. I'm doing my straight strokes, and that's kind of burnishing it to bring the shine up. So French polish on the top, French polish on the peg head are done. Before we finish today, we're going to add another coat of Z-epoxy on the sides, We're going to need about half as much, and it's a little different application method. It goes very quick and very, very thin, right? Next thing we need to do is excavate this. I need to make a boat ramp with that tie block there so that the string comes in and rolls up the back side of the tie block rather than hitting a wall, right? And I just do that with a chisel. So here's what we're talking about here. See how the string comes through the back side of the bridge, goes through the tie block, and the back side of that saddle slot has been ramped down in there so that the string will go up and over it rather than hitting a wall. So that's what we're going to do, and I do that just with a chisel. So I always kind of start at the top and then work down. That way you're not fully charged when you get down there. It's not going to roll on the top. Now see that? Come around this side, you can see this. See that little bit of buildup right there? That doesn't look like very much, but boy, if you try and sand that, you're going to be here all day long trying to do that. So go ahead and spread it on around there. Good morning, folks. Here we are again on Day 5.
Day 5.
Day 5. What we're going to do today is start by gluing our bridge on.
Yeah.
And even while the bridge is being glued on, I've still got the clamp on there. We're going to roll it up and begin our seal coats here on the side. After 10 minutes, we take the clamp off, clean out the squeeze out, put it back on for about another 15 or 20, still polishing the side. Once the vacuum clamp comes off, then we'll put it back over here in the vise like we've been doing. We'll tag Tim it. You get one side, I get one side. And here, 2-3 hours, we'll have something that we can write home to Mama about. It's going to be beautiful. So what we're going to use to clamp the bridge on is the LMI bridge vacuum clamp. And it just sits over the top like that. Obviously, we got glue on there, and just apply vacuum to it, and it sucks it down. And it's a really great way of doing it. The advantage to doing this is that you don't have to fight the traditional clamps to the sound hole. And that's a golden opportunity to damage your finish or damage your top. So there we go, folks. Peter gets an A for the French polishing effort. I think he's done a fantastic job. See if we can get the side down here. Oh, look at that shine, huh? That is beautiful. I'm impressed. Now, if you want to put your labels in before you close the box, you certainly can. If I do that, I usually put a piece of clear plastic, like a sandwich bag or something, over the top of it and tape it down with some blue tape so it doesn't get dirty throughout the rest of the construction process. But if you think it's easier to do that, you certainly can. So we need a 24 thousandths, and we've got a 26 thousandths file. And I do this all under tension. I just pull that sucker out of there like that.
Wow.
Now, we are not going down very much. We're sitting at about 9.5 or so. So I'm going to come in like so and just deepen that slot ever so slightly. All right, so once you've got your strings on and you've got it up to pitch, then come in and just kind of stretch your strings like this so that it stays in tune a little bit more. And the girl from Ipanema has brought us down a nice cup of Brazilian coffee, and it really makes the guitar sound good. Except you have to play Brazilian music.